We hope you brought the aloe and sunscreen.
Bullshit.
Because these takes are scorching hot. Now, get ready for some raw,
You want it raw?
gritty, and unfiltered takes from the old man, Don himself.
She can't say the truth because it does make her look like an idiot. Because that's what she is.
These are Pop's Takes, right here on BB Nation Radio.
Bullshit.
Oh, yes, and we are back once again with another edition of Pop's Takes right here on Backwoods Veterans Media. I am J-Dub, and with me is the elusive old man, the old breed Marine himself, good old Pops. What's happening, old timer? How you doing?
Hey, well, I'm here. How's that?
Right? That's a plus.
Well, it's been, I'm kind of a little bit trying to catch up a little bit on the current events as just what's going on, but I've been having a good time sitting back and relaxing and down at the coast and enjoying my motorhome and enjoying the crabbing and the fishing and all that good stuff. I've been doing a lot of scouting for deer and elk hunting that's coming up real quick. In fact, the archery season is starting this next
I believe it starts this Saturday is when it opens up, at least out here on the West Coast. So a lot of guys anxious and revved up for that, I know for sure. So
well, we got family that's kind of revved up about it. You know, they're ready to go.
Yes, we do. So we already got a few folks checking in. We got our good buddy Carl Loomis. Good to see him checking in. He's like, "Oh, hey y'all," and Mr. Dustin Pound says, "Send it," as well as "What up, Pops?" Semper Fi.
Hey.
And speaking of Semper Fi, your good buddy and mine, Richie Redneck Pimp King.
Hey, Rich, how you doing today?
From over there at Whoa Freaking Entertainment. Good to see him checking in. Of course, freaking Harambe Keeper checking in. And Nick Calise, good to see you. And hey, my old buddy, freaking my deployment brother of another mother for my first deployment over in Iraq. And while I was stationed over in Germany, good old Tony Bialis. Or Bialis, excuse me. Good seeing you, brother. And once again, well, High Tech checking in.
Well, of course, he's going to be here.
Well, of course. So, man, we got, like I said, we got some good stuff lined up for you this week. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into it. So, current topics of the day. Pops, what's your take?
The current take is, when did this country turn into a coward leadership, turn into cowards?
Oh?
When they let the Taliban tell them what measures they got to do and give them timelines and all this. No, we're the power, and we will, if you touch one of our people,
oh, yes, you're talking about the
Afghanistan.
Right.
And the
Taliban saying, guess what? You guys have until August 31st. After that, we're not responsible.
Well, they're going to think responsible when we start taking them off right at the neck.
Well, at least one would think.
Well, we better. If we don't, we're the laughing stock of the world, and we won't even be here anymore. We'll just be nothing. We'll be gone. Our whole world as we know it will no longer be.
Well, it's definitely changing for not the better. That is for sure, especially with the current climate with everything right now. My camera keeps fading in and out.
I can tell you this, though. We have too many people that have learned to live with freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think that they're going to be enslaved by these governments and everything for a long period of time, you got to know the thing coming. They will rebel.
Oh, yeah. I guess apparently there's already been several uprisings throughout the country.
Oh, yeah. How about kids with parents that kids rebel against them sometimes just because they take away some of their freedom?
Right. Well, I know one place where it's definitely the Taliban have not taken hold, and that's actually north of the town of Kandahar. And that's up there in the Pushjan Valley. I'm sorry if I slaughtered that. I never did the stand. All my overseas trips are Iraq. So you want to know about Iraq? I could tell you all the ins and outs about that, about that shithole. But when it comes to Afghanistan, and I say shithole for those of us that have been there and our experience of it. So definitely not what it was before we went in. But anyhow, but as far as Afghanistan is concerned, up in the Push-John Valley, I believe is what it's called, but there actually is a stronghold. It's originally where Northern Alliance actually had a very stronghold there in the early stages of Operation Enduring Freedom. And they say, guess what? The government's out. We're taking back hold until the government's put back in place. So they're trying to work with the exiled government, and the exiled president's VP is actually stepping up to the plate saying, no, guys, hey, all you guys that are taking off, where are you going? We still have work to do back here. So there's a glimmer of hope coming out of Afghanistan right now that there is still a fight to be had. And I hope those guys actually do a good job and take things,
let the guys do it. They will do a good job.
Exactly. So, it's good to see that there are some Afghan troops that are loyal to their cause and are stepping up to the plate and trying to get the ball going back in the right direction and say, guess what, Taliban, you guys had your shot. No. You guys are done. You've been done for 20 years now. Now the big brother's away doesn't mean you get to come out and play. So they're doing their best too.
Well, we'll see what happens. But
and
I just, I would like to, not only with the Taliban and all that and over there in Afghanistan, but just the world in general, like with this COVID stuff and everything like that. And look at Australia.
Right.
Have you seen what's going on over there?
No, I have not. But before we get
House
to that,
arrest.
Before we get to that, Tony Bialis makes a good point. He says, Justin, how many Taliban has been moved to the U.S. soil since they have movement from Afghanistan to Texas and Minnesota's so-called refugees? It's a good question. That is a very good question. So only, unfortunately, because the vetting process hasn't been that very good for a lot of folks trying to evacuate out of Afghanistan, we shall wait and see on that one.
Well,
but anyhow, as you were talking back to Australia.
He was talking about the border people and stuff coming across the border. We don't know who's coming across. They had, 5 guys or something like that. They watched 5 adult males dressed in black run across the border into the United States last night.
Good old Yodis. And I'm not talking the 4-legged guy.
And they were disappeared. Anyhow, that Australia is on house arrest, basically. You're not supposed to talk to your neighbor or anything.
Really?
Yeah. They're really...
because of what? Because of COVID?
Because of COVID.
What? Have you lost your mind?
Well, that's what I said.
I mean, I understand.
I always thought Australia was pretty much a democracy like anywhere, like we are.
I was going to say, Australia is one of our closest allies and one of the closest models to the United States government on the world stage. There's quite a few of them, but Australia is actually really, really close.
Right. I thought
really similar.
I thought Australia was pretty much kind of a middle road between UK and the United States.
Correct.
And in the better part of both, they had taken it in hand, and that's the way it was over there.
Yeah.
But
well, I think part of what that could be is for the simple fact they're just done. They're tired of it. They want their lives back, and I can't say they blame them. I understand that, yes, there are precautions that have to be made in regards to the COVID-19. I get that. I truly do. It is a real thing. It does affect people. People do get sick. It's not exactly the underlying cause of why people die, but it does exacerbate other conditions that they may have. However, on the flip side of things, with all these mandates and everything else and all these restrictions that big government and everything else is put into play with everything, why haven't they done that with a lot of these other ones that are twice as deadly that we've had, in just in this century alone?
Well, flu and all that kind of stuff is deadly too if you don't take care of it. All of them can be deadly. But you can walk across the street and get hit by a car. You can fall downstairs, you get tripped on something and fall and break your neck or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different ways to die. I mean, we can't spend the rest of our life and what life we have. We can't spend it worrying about how we're going to die.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yes, we take precautions to make sure that we're as healthy as possible.
Indeed.
But in the same token, I'm not going to sit here and worry about what's going to happen to me tomorrow.
Yeah, that's very true.
I mean, as far as health wise and stuff like that, if it happens, it happens. But I'm going to enjoy what I have right now.
Yeah.
And boy, golly, I've been showing that up there at the coast. Enjoying my time down there.
That you certainly have. And speaking of the coast, let's go ahead and start diving into that stuff. So,
okay.
And one of the things that we had on the docket for this evening was one of the things that's a huge summertime activity, not just on the West Coast, but on the East Coast too. But, at least out here on this side of the country, particularly here in the Northwest, Dungeness crab.
Oh boy.
And that is rolling hot right now. It is rolling hot and heavy on the recreational side. Commercial side, yeah, that's later on in the year. That's more like December, January timeframe. But on the recreation side, no, it's clicking. It's running on all cylinders right now. And I tell you what, if you're a recreational, crab fisherman, get out there, get your pots wet, because now is the time.
Yeah, they're running good. There's a lot of nice crab out there. We did real well out there, about 4 hours, I guess it was, and ended up with about 15, 16 keepers, something like that.
Yeah. But it was crowded.
Oh
my God, it was crowded on Saturday where we were at. Because we were out there just out in the Halem Bay State Park there on the Oregon coast. And I tell you what, I mean, you couldn't move, 50, 60 yards, if that, without running into somebody's buoy out there in the bay, out in the channel and stuff where the crab are moving. And it was tough out there. It really was. So, I mean, if it hadn't been as crowded, I'm fairly certain we probably would have caught more. I'm fairly certain we would have caught more, but with how tight the fishing was, with how many people were down there, you got, they can go any direction to the bait. And a lot of it depends on what bait that you're using too. Yeah. Bobs, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Well, you can use about any bait, but we found out one of the best baits working for us was good old drumstick chicken legs.
Yeah.
Just plain old chicken legs. But then we used a little Procure on top of it too. It's kind of any type of lure that you can get at the sporting goods stores and stuff for crab. Works pretty good.
But Procure is the one that's actually, and this isn't a paid sponsorship or anything else like this, but that's the one that actually was doing the chicken alone was doing good.
Right.
But to
add the bait draw onto it, that was what made the difference.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually made a difference between, ones that were barely legal versus ones that we couldn't fit the measuring stick over. Well,
if we could have kept females, we'd have had a 50 of them.
Oh my God. That's no lie.
Big. They were large. I mean, you have a minimum across the breadth of the shell, the width of it.
Right.
You have a minimum of 5 3/4 inches here in the state of Oregon.
Correct.
We threw away had to throw back some females that were running 6.5,
almost 7,
almost 7 inches.
Yeah, they were big. They were
thick,
big,
very thick through the body and everything. So, yeah, they were. They're doing well right now.
Right. And what's funny is that Cindy Cerny, she chimes in. She's one of our faithful. She says she actually used to spend a lot of time. Used to live up in Washington State. Says we always use Puss in Boots canned cat food. Cats won't eat it, but as for crab bait and shrimp, for that matter, also. So, which is funny because we've actually used something similar in the past. We've used the whole freaking cat food.
Yeah, we use cat food. I've used
works really well for crawdads too.
Oh yeah, that's all you use for crawdads is good old cat food. Set the can in the trap and poke some holes in the can. Just set it in there and let it wait.
Let the oils just seep into the water, and away it goes, man. They will come a running.
And anyhow, that's a great bait. It really is. And thanks for that tip.
Exactly. Now, when you're fishing for crab, what's another tip that you want to look at? You want to look at things like depth or?
Well, first off, let me talk about the trap.
Do it.
When you're using a trap and you have that rope on, make sure that your rope has got long enough that it's got slack so that it's with the tide changes and all that, it's not going to lose your buoy and lose your trap.
Right.
Now, the one thing about I have found that I like real well, start with the buoy itself. I like those that are painted red and white or bright colors, but have the dark tip up. Have that first, then you have the white, and your rope comes through that white and up to the red, and you tie it off with a loop so you can hook it with a hook or something to catch it.
Use a handle of a boat oar or a gaff hook or something.
Yeah. And use that regular boat hook works really well.
Richie says, clean your private areas. You won't have crabs. Wrong type, man. These are the ones these are the ones you fish in the ocean for, not the ones you go fishing at downtown for. Okay, just saying.
These are the ones you eat, not pick off.
Well, yeah. I mean, it all depends on how disturbed you are. You can eat those too, but I don't think you want to. But but no, but yeah, like you said, in regards to now, why do you do that?
Right,
is it because it increases visibility or what?
No. Well, you have visibility, but that's not the thing. There's the red pointing up at you and the white below that, and you look at the direction that is in the water, and that'll tell you where your rope is going down to your trap.
Right.
And which angle to come into it to get the rope without tangling up your prop and all that with the boat.
Take note, people. Take note.
As you know from experience, right?
Hey, I never tangled it myself, but
he did a great job. He did a great job considering
he's still learning.
Well, on top of that, he was having shifting problems with the boat.
Yeah.
So he did real good with that, but we did well. We had a lot of fun. My daughter, it was her first time.
Yeah, I was going to say that was her first time out there on the crab boat too, which was funny.
Yeah, she really enjoyed that.
Absolutely. So now, as far as depth wise,
okay, try and find the holes. In other words, you'll have a bottom and then you'll have a drop off where it drops maybe 5 feet or 10 feet or maybe even only 2 feet. But the food for the crab will kind of drop into those holes, and that's where they're going to go eat.
Then it gets them out of the current as well.
Their food will settle down in there. And one thing I was going to mention about when you drop your trap or net or whatever you're using, make sure that you put it in the water flat.
Yes.
You want the bottom flat across even with the water, so that when it goes down, it'll stay upright and not be hung up on its edge or anything like that.
Well, yeah, because they can't get in if the gates are freaking. Because they have those little gates that swing in your traps, so that way once they can push it open and get into where the bait's at, but they can't push it out.
Well, we found out there when the water started moving pretty fast there, with the tide changing and going pretty fast, we found out there was so much seaweed going through that you had to pull your traps in shorter times than you would normally pull them.
God, yeah, that's no lie.
Because the seaweed would keep the door, let the doorway wouldn't close, the trap doors where they went through. And so they could just go in and out.
Yeah.
And when they went in and out, why then if you pulled what you got up, but you'd have some in there, but they'd be a lot of big ones would be out of there already, or you'd see them floating away as they pull it up.
It'd be riding right along and wind up freaking bailing off right before you break the surface. You're like, no! I think I saw like 2 or 3 wind up doing that. I was so mad. That's where that's where a pop block would have come in handy, or a oh God, what's another name for it? An outrigger.
You just wanted a gill net. That's what you wanted.
What the hell do I want a gill net for crab? No.
Catch a crab that way.
Well, you could, yeah, but that'd be just a bear trying to get that stuff
you might just try to pull it up.
Oh my God, that'd be a nightmare. Because it wouldn't just be the crab you'd be pulling up, you'd be pulling everything else that was around and with it.
Yeah. And that seaweed is heavy.
Yes, it certainly is. So, but yeah, like I said, so right now is the hot time, especially out here on the West Coast, because here's the other thing about it too, is that these guys aren't, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very full right now. They're very full. They're in
solid,
between
they're
molts.
solid. Yeah.
They're really solid. So if you're looking for good, full, clean, delicious crab, now is the time to go out and get them, because they'll probably wind up going through one more molt before the commercial season starts. And that's when they start getting full, and they'll be good and full again.
Oh yeah.
By come this winter time. So, because normally, between now and probably end of September would be the best time to go before the next molt.
Well,
because the next molt is, like I said, right around end of September, beginning of October.
Closer to the middle of September.
You think mid-September?
Yeah.
So we only got a couple weeks left of good crab.
About 3 weeks, I'd say.
Yeah, and then they're going to molt again. And then they're going to harden back up, and they're going to fill back up. And by that point in time, commercial season, then you're going to be fighting the commercial boats. But those guys are offshore. But if you're sticking to the bays, like up there in the Puget Sound, around the San Juan Islands, if you're, hanging around the mouth of the Columbia, if you're, in the Halem Bay, Tillamook Bay, Seaside, Brookings, Well,
a lot of our local crabbers, they do a lot of try and go out in late November, December.
Yeah, that's why
January.
I said that's when the commercial guys all go out. So, how many bodies have they pulled up? Not really sure, but I don't think I want to know the answer to that question, good sir. So,
pretty hard for them bodies to get into the traps.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking, rings that are probably, rings or squares that are probably
well,
I would say like 24 by 20, by 24 by like what?
Well,
maybe 10 inches tall.
Well, your crab pots that we use are 30 by 30.
Oh, okay. Yeah. 30 by, we're not talking like the ones that they actually use on like Deadliest Catch and stuff like that. The big ones are like 8 foot by 8 foot by like
they're huge.
2 feet, when you're catching freaking, Pilio or Beardeye or freaking king
don't
crab.
pull them up by hand, I'll tell you.
No. Hydraulics and heavy equipment required. So, but yeah, Cindy, grew up there. You don't want to know in response to Richie. So, but that's, but yeah, so that pretty much wraps up with the crab talk for now. Now, for the final topic of today's show, is talking about the upcoming 2021 hunting season for deer and elk.
All right.
And you and I actually had a chance yesterday morning, or late yesterday morning, early yesterday afternoon, which, by the way, I was late to pre-production.
Sorry.
It wasn't me. I blame. Or you. So... But I was only 10 minutes late, made it up. I got an alibi with that by bribing with a couple of fresh caught crab from Saturday. So all is good there.
Speaking of that, do you want to take one with you tonight to share with Mariah?
We'll talk about that off air.
All right. Anyhow,
but no, talking about with the hunting season coming up, we got a chance to go out and do a little bit of scouting, and the animals are on the move right now.
Yeah. Especially here the last couple of weeks, actually last 3 weeks, there's been a lot of bow hunters out scouting and everything like that, and setting up lines and stuff. So there's been a lot of activity, and they've got right now the animals are still herded up.
At least the elk are.
Yeah, the elk are still herded up, and they're hidden. But the best way I've found it out right now, the best way for me to find elk is where we went yesterday, find a spot like that where there's lots of sign. Even some of it may not be today, but if I sit there for 3 days, I can guarantee
you'll guarantee something's going to come through.
Something's going to come through, and I'm going to fill my tag.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing, too, because right now we're going into the early season for bow season. And when I'm talking early season, is we're talking bow hunters getting their first crack at things. So I know a couple things that you want to look for. One, look for vegetation that has been freshly mowed down. Trust me, you're going to find it if you start getting on the trails, and especially for a elk hunter. And a lot of this stuff I'm talking is a lot of West Coast stuff right now, because the animals out here act very similarly, at least along the coast. They do. When you're dealing with Roosevelt, Rockies are a little bit different, but at the same time, the season opens up at the same time too. Yeah. I know. So I'll let you go ahead and talk stuff for Roosevelt, and I'll talk a little bit about Rockies here in a second. So go ahead, Pop.
Well, your best way for Roosevelt is do a lot of scouting ahead of time. And remember that they make a trip around. They have a circuit. They'll have a circuit that they make every week.
Right.
Actually, it's
you can almost clock it to three and a half to 4 days.
Right, 3.5 to 4 days. Sometimes down to 3, sometimes to 4.5. But normally, at that time, if they were there before, if you see sign where they were there the day before you looked, or 2 days old, just get your tail down there and set and wait.
Yeah, find a place and
within the next couple of days, they're going to come through again. And that's the thing about elk. They make a circuit, and they'll make that same circuit until they get spooked out of it.
Right.
And it takes quite a bit to get them spooked out of that whole circuit. Yeah, they get spooked today. That'll move them ahead into their next area where they go. The next part of their circuit, they'll move into that faster, and they may stay there a little longer unless they're spooked out of that one. The one thing about it when they start rifle season, well, like last year, we had so many hunters here because they couldn't, here on the coast, because they couldn't go to East Oregon, whatnot, where they like to go because of the fires and all that.
Right.
They were kind of stopped from that. So they all went down here to the coast, and they really had them on the move. They kept them so buried that, there's one hole I know of that if I go down there to get one, which I won't do now.
You're going to be down there for a while.
I did have my younger days, and it's just one of the places where you go in and you take your knife and fork and a match with you.
Yeah, because you're just going to cook it and eat it right there on the spot. So, and it's funny because Richie actually makes a good comment. He's talking about running a couple of trail cams, which is right. Yeah. That's one of the things you definitely want to do, especially when you find these trail. And here's the thing about it. If you spend a decent enough time out in the woods, when it comes to hunting elk, you're going to know when you're on an elk trail because it's going to literally look, that trail, you're either going to find several smaller ones. I mean, a lot of us know what a deer trail looks like. It's very small, very narrow. You're going to find, you're going to see where it's been traveled and it's been used. But a good elk trail is going to look probably about 1.5 feet, 2 feet wide. And the ground is just going to be tore up from the floor up, man.
Well, normally too, if you've got a herd or a bunch of elk, is they're going to like coming down off a little bank or something like that. You're going to see those trails that wide like that, but you're going to see 3 or 4 trails where they come off of there because they'll split up and come down and gather up.
Yep, exactly. And those are the things that you want to look at because you're going to see the track and everything else that's going to be imprinted in the dirt. And when you start getting in areas like that, that's where you want to go ahead and start setting up your cams, figure out when they're crossing and things of that nature. So that way it gives you a better idea and take a look around, make sure, what you're, take a look at the vegetation. You're going to find scat. You're going to find rubs, especially this time of year because they're finally finishing coming out of that velvet and there's the bulls are scrapping. They're getting scrappy because it's rut time and they're going to be talking. So when you finally get that pattern down, figure out that area where they're running back and forth, then you're going to have an idea as far as, when exactly you almost clock it essentially, everybody that's actually a hunter we all have the running joke. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't set the appointment. Well, guess what? That's probably because you didn't do a good enough job scouting, because if you had done your job scouting correctly, and actually putting the time and investment into it, you almost can make the appointment.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Let me tell you something. A little secret to that, those trail cams.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to set one up on the main trail where the bunch is. But find you a trail off to the side that has been, there's only one animal has been traveling there.
Chances are that's the big boy.
That's your herd bull.
Yep.
And they won't move with the herd until they will move into it eventually when they're feeding sometimes. And
Feeding or bedding down.
yeah, but they're very, very cautious, and they will say. So if you find another place close by where it looks like something's been traveling by itself, set up your cam there. Set up your second cam. It takes 2 or 3 cams to really do the job.
Yes,
right.
it does.
And then you watch your film on that and see. But I'll make you a bet that that'll be that big bull, the herd bull, going through that second camera.
If not, at least a good satellite.
And yeah, or a satellite bull. And that's going to get you a chance at him because then you just find you a spot where it's possible to meet up with him, and you have a good field of view and a area for a bow shot or a rifle shot, whichever. And that's how you want to do it.
By God. And it's funny because Rosie's are Rocky Mountain are actually very similar to with what these Roosevelts are. But with that being said, we're going to talk Rocky Mountain elk here next week on next week's edition because we are out of time for this week. So food for thought, guys. So get out there, enjoy, what little bit of the summer we have left. We got this weekend. Next weekend after that is Labor Day weekend, the official, unofficial, and the last weekend of summer. So I know we got plans for Labor Day weekend, so we won't be on that week. But next week, yes, we will be back, and we'll be talking more hunting stuff, getting ready and gearing up for the season, as well as talking some bow stuff. So, Pops, final words of wisdom for this week.
Well, just if you're a hunter, get out there and scout. That's what you got to do. If you got to make time to do it. If you want to be successful, do some scouting. If you can't scout yourself, go with somebody that does or can scout that will help you. That's the only way you're going to be successful, unless you just have to be real lucky.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my tip.
All right, guys. That does it for us here on tonight's show. So again, please be sure to head over to our website at backwoodsvets.com, catch up on all your favorite shows and everything there. And also be sure to tune in on Wednesday when we'll be back with myself and EO Complaint with another episode of the Hump Day Hangover over on our Spreaker page. And you can find us over there at Backwoods Veterans Media. Give us a follow there, and we'll be live at 7 to 9 Pacific p.m. So anyhow, guys, that does it for us. Have a good one, and we will talk to y'all later. Have a good week, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. See y'all.